Whether you're building a bridge or a fence or a house, treated timber comes in many different forms and works exceptionally well, protecting against insects and decay and giving the timber a much longer lifespan. But not all treated timbers are the same, and just because it's treated doesn't mean it's necessarily going to be fit for purpose. So here's a little guide about getting the best out of your treated timber. We've been building with wood for centuries and for many good reasons.
I love using timber because it's forgiving, it's easy to work with, and it creates a nice finished product.
So it's a natural material, it's carbon negative, it's renewable, generally speaking. Great for the environment and great to live around as well, I firmly believe.
It's an easy to use product and you can make alterations quickly on site. You know, it's a saw and a nail gun and you can make alterations.
You can use timber to build pretty much anything. House frames, fences and decks, even bridges and boats. But timber does have some points to consider. Termites and other insects may feed on it, and it might decay when used in damp conditions. That's why we treat it with insecticides and pesticides. And when we preserve timber, we also make it a more effective long-term carbon store. In a previous WoodSolutions In Focus episode, we looked at how timber treatments work. In this video, we're giving you an introductory guide to which timber to use for which project, because it's important to remember, not all treated timber is the same.
Everyone should have an expectation that their home, whether it's been treated, the timber's treated for termite protection, or in fact treated for decay, then they should have a very sound expectation of its performance, long as the product is installed correctly. If we're following the recommendations and we're using the right timber in the right application.
To make the decision easier and to ensure the treated timber you choose is right for the job, each preserved timber product is branded with a hazard class. The equation is simple depending on what you want your timber product to do and what you need to protect it against.
So H1 is generally termed an immunisation. It's for the sapwood on lictor-susceptible timbers. Don't use a lot of it here in Australia. It could be used in certain products, but the default is to go to H2. That's broken up into a number of classifications. We have H2F, which is an envelope treatment used specifically in Queensland or throughout Australia, but up to the Tropic of Capricorn, where there's a difference in the termite species. So we're going to use H2 red in those areas. Then we're coming into H3, which is for outdoor, for decay, above ground. Really important, it's above ground, not in ground. A paling fence, not in contact with the ground, it can be H3. Totally adequate for the job. H4 then, we're talking for in-ground contact. I suppose the example that we've seen again is if you're building a retaining wall with sleepers, you've got contact with the ground, and earth behind the retaining wall, so that's ground contact. It needs to be H4. Then you start going up to H5 where it's more critical applications, and H6 which is getting into marine use.
So let's take a look at some popular examples of different treated timbers and how they are used. We start this tour at one of this country's largest softwood providers, Pine Timber. So these are the three different products that you produce out of here. And you were saying any structural timber that you produce, 100% of it is treated.
Yeah, so all of our MGP products, so that's all our machine graded pine, that's used for structural load bearing applications, is treated to one of the three treatments. Yep.
Right, well let's go through the three. So we've got blue, red and green.
Yep, it's as simple as that, blue, red and green. So the blue product is our H2F equivalent product, so that can be used in H2F hazard class applications, so internal, above ground applications, so wall frames, trusses, and can be used anywhere south of the Tropic of Capricorn.
Yes.
Because there's a different termite north of the Tropic of Capricorn.
A nastier, bigger
termite. Bigger, tougher termite who is, more resilient.
Yes, which requires you to, throw more chemical
through to the centre, So the H2F product, or the H2F equivalent product, has an envelope treatment, so it's just treated around the outside.
Yep.
The H2 product, which is our T2 red product, is fully treated right to the centre of the wood. And can be used anywhere in Australia, but particularly north of the Tropic of Capricorn, where the Mastotermes So where the big nasty termites are, that product is suitable, again, for internal, above ground applications protected from the weather.
So termite, and weather.
Yep, so T3 Green is our H3 product for Hazard Class 3, and that's got both a termicide, so a termite protection, but also rot protection, so fungicides to prevent rot. So that can be used in external applications, not in contact with the ground.
On site now at a subdivision just coming out of the ground like it's happening all over Australia, Jerry, and this is a good example of how treated timber is being used in a variety of different applications.
Absolutely. We're in Hervey Bay in southeast Queensland. This framing, H2F framing, is treated for termites and other insects, and it's quite significantly different to H3 and H4, which is used for external use, which is a decay environment. So this is about insect protection, particulate termites. It's well manufactured, it's identified with brands, etc. So the builders know what they're getting, they should know where it's going to be used. So you've got to specify the right piece. You've got to use it in the right application.
And when we do that, you know, these structures will stand for a very, very long time.
They will. They're designed, they're conforming to the National Construction Code, and you'll get great performance out of it.
So it's not that hard. If you just take a minute, look at the chart, look at your application.
Absolutely. Through the supply chain, it will be on the plans, it'll be on the delivery docket from your supplier, whether it's truss and frame supplier or from your hardware store, and it will say it's H2F.
It's about using the right timber for the right job. Companies such as Hine also run a rigorous testing regime to make sure they are treating the timber with the correct amount of chemicals. It's a costly process, but provides confidence in the products. Angela, we've come into the lab, the lab of the mill, and in here, what takes place? What are we looking at?
So treatment is obviously an area that we can have a lot of risk. We can expose our customers to risk if we don't do our jobs well. So part of being a responsible treater is to make sure that we're checking our treatment is right. So we have a lab which most treatment plants would not have.
Yes.
I guess we're a big volume producer. External lab testing is expensive, and also you're not going to be able to get the same turnover results. So we test every day a piece of wood from each of our treatment plants, as well as the solutions, both before we've mixed them and after we've mixed them, and also our incoming chemicals when we get a delivery. And so we're able to check at each stage of the process whether we've got enough concentration of the right chemicals in the right locations, in whether that's the solution or the timber.
So this is something that you take seriously, and I guess it gives the customer confidence that the timber that they pick is going to be up to the job.
We don't want to put wood into the market that doesn't meet the requirements for the customer. We take our treating pretty seriously.
There's a bit to it. To use timber outside or externally, but not in contact or buried into the ground, it must be protected to a minimum of H3 level.
So exterior products, by contrast to interior products, the risk is much higher. There's risk of fungal decay and rot, also termite attack. So we take the product through a treatment process to render them impervious to those decay conditions. Our exterior products generally range from things like exterior claddings through to lining products, also things like structural post and beam, and we also do quite a bit of trim material as well.
So Matt, above this retaining wall, you're going to have a fence, assuming?
Yep, we're going to have a fence. It's going to have pine rails, pine palings.
Yep, and that'll be H3.
It'll be H3,
So in this situation, we've got a mixture of H4 and H3, which is a perfect example of the product use.
Yep.
Once we get to H5 level, we're talking more critical outdoor uses, and a product which we are all familiar with is a great example of treated timber working as it should: power poles. Power poles are also an example of very successfully used treated timber, aren't they? I mean, you were saying that some are 100 years old and still going. Is every bit of treated timber that successful?
It is, as long as it's been used for the correct application. So if the customers ask for the correct hazard level treatment, it will definitely do exactly as it's advertised.
So where people go wrong, they're using the wrong timber in the wrong application.
Certainly. So they're using H2 timber, which should be used inside, where they're putting it into their gardens against the ground on a garden bed, where they should be using H4, and it'll rot away in no time flat.
So power poles, are a good example of timber that has been used in the correct application.
They are. We look at these lasting a minimum of 50 years, but we've had some examples out for over 100 years. And as long as they're treated correctly, they should last exactly as they're advertised. So these are H5, they should last a minimum of 50 years.
And whether it's a power pole or a bit of decking, if you choose the right timber for the right application, this is what you get.
It'll last exactly as advertised.
The final level of treatment, H6 class timbers, are used for marine purposes and are protected against marine borers as well as decay. To choose the right treated timber, simply look at how it will be used and pick the appropriate hazard class.
You can be sure with Australian timber from reputable timber organisations, especially ones that are members of the Timber Preservers Association, that they'll have the correct treatment and they'll have done their testing requirements.
Yes, it is treated, but it's treated for a specific use and application, and you need to be aware what you want to use it for. You probably, if you're at the hardware store or the timber yard, you need to tell them what you want to use that piece of treated timber for, and then they will provide you the right piece for the right use.
There's more to treated timber than just treating it. It's backed by ongoing research and development. Through a wide range of projects focusing on durability, decay and timber building products, the National Centre for Timber Durability and Design Life is ensuring that Australia has ongoing confidence in the materials produced by the timber treatment industry.